What's up, everybody? Kokanee fishing is going on, and I want to talk about dodgers and everything you need to know from their sizes, their shapes, their colors, and how to get them rigged up on your rod. So stay tuned with us. This is going to be good. So like I said, it's now time to talk kokanee fishing as we are right in the heart of fishing being good. That being said, we got to talk about one of the most essential items in your kokanee arsenal, and that's a dodger. A dodger for kokanee is the main item for helping attract your fish to your presentation. Now, dodgers come in a variety of different styles. They come in a ton of different colors, but we're going to keep it as simple as possible because kokanee fishing can be as complicated as you make it. So keeping it more on the simple side will help you catch more fish and, curb that learning portion if this is new for you. So we're going to start with just talking about the dodgers and what you need to know about them. So when we're talking dodgers for kokanee, there's a lot of varieties. You can kind of see just a few laid out in front of us here. We're going to go right into this for you guys and talk the different styles of dodgers, what they do action-wise, and where and when they best fit for your fishing arsenal. Because honestly, you fish dodgers for kokanee year-round. It doesn't matter if it's spring like we are right now, going into summer into late fall, and sometimes even get wintertime opportunities. Dodgers have a role in every season for kokanee fishing. So let's take a look at some of the standards. And I would honestly say the first one we're going to address is this skateboard style. This has a double wave, right? One pointing down, one pointing up, and a very standard dodger no matter where you go. This is a Nite dodger, and honestly probably my go-to based on just confidence and success. But that is a very standard style that you will see everyone fish. Now, size-wise, these dodgers are going to be in around the 3 to 4 inch range. You can go a little bit bigger as well, but they're going to stay in that size range just for the action purposes and their effectiveness. Because most of the time, you don't have to go to a giant size dodger like this guy, because this is more for their saltwater brothers and sisters in the sockeye themselves, because this is a size 0 gold star compared to a 4-inch little kokanee dodger. But that skateboard style has a really good action because this front side dives down and allows, so it's more like this, where this back end kicks this way. And you can see in the water here how this shows, but that action really makes a huge difference on what you put behind it. Those skateboard styles work very well top lined, where because they're going to fish honestly by themselves the top 10 feet of the water column. So I like to run those on my top line rods early in the morning, and then I start to go deeper, I'll put them on the downrigger. For technique wise, I would put behind one of those skateboard styles either a small hoochie 8 to 10 inches behind, or lengthen the leaders up and put some spinners. They work very well doing all of that. Color wise, again, that's its own discussion and video. But for dodger styles, those skateboard are a very standard and great option to at least have a few in your arsenal. The next one gets into the more arrow shape. And that arrow shape has a huge benefit because of the amount of flash it does. It creates a very large rotation without flipping all the way over, which gives you a ton of action for those guys that like to fish hoochies and stuff that doesn't have its own action. But then again, you can lengthen the leaders and run spinners as well. So a little bit more wider profile on itself. So it catches a lot more water, gets a lot bigger thump, and that causes you to give a bigger attraction threshold for a lot of those fish. Now you have to keep in mind, based on where you're at, if kokanee do have some predators, like lake trout, maybe it's Chinook salmon, maybe it's other trout in themselves, some of the times it's too much flash and that can scare them away. So you kind of just have to play with what you're wanting to use based on what predator source is in the water. But for the most part, something like this can really help you out because, again, it varies based on the dodger and how that goes about it. You're going to see here, this is our Holy Moly Hyper School. This has a lot of UV, a lot of glow, and makes a really good flash in the water. There's others like this God's Tooth one that, again, creates some really cool and unique flash. But those arrow style really have a threshold that I say is something that you got to pay attention to as far as speed, because any of these dodgers trolling, you're in that 1 mile an hour to maybe 1.6 before it starts going over what they're capable of holding on to. So between the skateboard style and those arrow style, you usually can fish that up to 1.6, 1.7 pretty easily before they start really going out of control. Next, because we're talking about speed, I think it's worth mentioning these Sling blade style. This one's from Rocky Mountain Tackle, 4.5 inch. Here's the same dodger, but a 5.5 inch. Now what's cool about these is these do come flat out of the package to run at a faster speed, right? They'll give you a lot tighter action where it just rotates between itself this way. You're not getting a whole lot of the huge swing like you do on the other ones, unless you put a bend. That bend is something I've done and many people do to give you more action and thump at a slower speed from these style dodgers. And in fact, you can do that with these 5.5 inch and put a dual bend, one in the back and one in the front, that really gives a good kick. It pulls the dodger down and gives this a very good action. So those sling blade styles are going to be more in line with your downrigger clip and not vary too much on how much they dive or anything else. They're very lightweight, they don't have any drag, and they're going to be really good to use for downrigger fishing. And that's kind of more or less what I think those are best for. You can even get some of these really small ones, which work when there's high pressure and situations. Which, speaking of high pressure and situations, it's worth talking about the next ones as kind of its own unique category, right? We've talked about skateboards, we've talked about the arrow, we've talked about the sling blade, which is more of a teardrop. What about a flat square dodger, right? This is a Max Double D. It has one bend on the back here, and it's flat up on the front. Now these holes make this dodger unique, and you can see the small pattern, right? Just like on his bigger brother. Okay. These Double D dodgers are in their own category because they're essentially a planar dodger. Whether you put it on the left side or the right side, you can push these out away from your boat. But these do stay flat because of this direction. So you want to put, if you're top lining, a small 1/4 ounce weight to pull the nose down and really get this to fish. But I have found that these dodgers really do work well a lot of the time for different options, and running a little bit bigger size like you saw here can really help in some of those big deep water fisheries to pull a lot more fish from a further distance. But I've done really well using those Max Double Ds in different situations where I maybe want to separate my gear out. It gives a different profile and really does help with that attraction. I would say there's another category of converting your own lures into dodgers for kokanee. So if you guys are at all salmon fishermen, you got fish wobblers, for example. These Brad's wobblers make really good kokanee dodgers. All you're doing is taking off the hook on the bottom, and you have a perfect shaped dodger that really works. And ultimately, there were so many people that were using those Brad's dodgers and Simons for that purpose that they ended up creating their own line of kokanee dodgers. So you guys don't have to go the route of just purchasing stuff out there on the market. You may already have your favorite salmon spoon that's oversized and works really well for a Dodger, right? And you can convert them very easily and make them happen. Now, I'd say it's also worth mentioning here a couple of the key features that every Dodger should have in order to be successful on how you utilize the gear, right? You're going to want to have a swivel on the top end, and you want to have a snap swivel on the bottom. That snap swivel on the bottom allows a quick connect, whether you're fishing, maybe it's a hoochie spinner or you're fishing a squid itself. You got to have some kind of tie point, and I think having that connection allows you to quickly change in and out. But the same being said, the top end of your Dodger needs to have a really good swivel to keep any of that additional line twist off your line. Because ultimately, what I do, and I run this on these rods like you see here, any of my connection setups are going to have a snap swivel. And that's a snap swivel coming from the rod itself to the main lure connection. So here's one of those skateboard style Dick Nites, and here's my main line coming down. I have a size 3 snap swivel there, which connects directly to the swivel on top of that Dodger. Allows for me to quickly snap in and out between rigs and dependent on how I'm fishing. Because I carry, and you've seen this in some of my other videos of organizing, I run all my setups in little baggies. So I can just grab a setup out of a baggie, switch it out, and it's ready to fish. This helps me save time. It helps me cycle through gear and make sure I have everything I need already ready to go. And I truly don't have to touch anything on the water to retie. I already have everything all set up. I mean, kokanee fishing, if you haven't ever done it before, is one of the most fun, but it can be the most addicting gear collection adventures you'll get into in the fishing world. Because there's so much out there. You can customize every tackle you want, and you can make it your own as well as go buy it. So you can have a lot of Dodgers, you can have a lot of tackle, and that being said, you don't need to have everything. Pick some of your favorites, right? Color-wise of Dodgers, some UV and glow, something with some flash. Silver-plated, gold-plated have their place in certain situations. Sometimes they can be too much. But having some flash, having some color, having some UV, contrast, it all really does help. And that's going to make you a successful kokanee fisherman. So that's just a basic rundown. Dodgers and kokanee are very straightforward. They are something that you're going to be able to truly have some fun exploring this new adventure and endeavor that you're getting into, and really enjoy the experience of how tasty these fish are. I mean, the gear is simple enough. A standard 8.5 to 9 foot kokanee rod, which means a very parabolic limber rod to help you keep those fish on because of their very soft mouths. You don't want anything heavy, but truly, you don't have to go get specialized rods. You can use rods that you already have, and they'll work. Just not maybe as effective as some of these specialized gear are, but you can get started with what you have right now and get yourself into some fish. So, what now? We got to go check out the water for the next part and showcase you the gear to go fishing behind these Dodgers. Tie lines and fish on!